800-956-7266.
Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy, 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 happy anniversary, happy, 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 happy anniversary, happy, happy, happy anniversary, happy, happy, happy anniversary.
And thank you very much to the Sports Talk Chorus for adding a little something extra to our opening tonight. Yes, it is our Sports Talk anniversary number 35. It was 1984, Labor Day weekend, the Monday after, when we began Sports Talk right out of Columbia with 11 radio stations, and we're happy to be going stronger, bigger, and better than ever. So good to have everybody with us. Thanks to all the listeners and our stations and our sponsors for 35 great years of Sports Talk. And my goodness, we hope for many, many more years. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, all together on this Labor Day night. It's not labor for us. It's a labor of love as we come to you after a weekend of college football. And we got the appetizers out of the way. Now we get down to the main course this week with South Carolina, Georgia, Clemson, Texas A&M, and other big games around the country. One more game to go on this Labor Day weekend tonight, Florida State and Virginia Tech down in Tallahassee. So we'll talk about the weekend, ACC, SEC across the state, of course, focusing on USC's win over Coastal, Clemson's win over Furman. I was in Columbia, Pro was in Columbia, and Will was up at Clemson, so we've got it all covered for you. Also went to the race last night. Fantastic, fantastic. Never touch Darlington. Whatever you do, never touch Darlington. It gets better every year. The place looked great. It looked very much modernized with the new seats and what they did on the backstretch. The racing was terrific with a very exciting finish. You know, you got to look at little things in racing. It's not always the race to the checkered flag. It's the race coming off pit road during the last yellow flag stop. And that was very exciting. So we'll hear from the winner, Brad Keselowski, who wins his first Bojangles Southern 500. We'll talk about that in our second hour. But right now, it is time to give you our thoughts about what we saw this past weekend. 800-956-7266 is the number. And, you know, guys, I mean, between the Gamecocks and Tigers, both playing lesser opponents, the outcome was never in doubt. Both of them put their opponents away relatively easy. And we got a chance to see a lot of young players. And I guess, Will, you got to see the most talked about of the young people.
Well, I don't mean to try and make overarching conclusions based on a game against an FCS opponent, but I'll just tell you what I observed with my two eyes and my brain. The better quarterback on this football team happens to be the one who didn't start the game for Clemson on Saturday, and I think that's Trevor Lawrence. I think that the offense moves a lot more smoothly with him at the helm. I think you see a difference in the player's attitude when he is on the field. You could certainly hear it in the fans' reaction to the way that he was received on Saturday. Kelly Bryant was received poorly. Not like there were people who were booing him like maybe they were at the spring game. There was reports of that. But from people's perspective, I know that the numbers look very similar, but the degree of difficulty throws. There was one throw that Trevor Lawrence made. It was a long pass down the right sideline to Cornell Powell on the run, on his back foot. And, yeah, I know Cornell Powell might have gotten away with a shove on the cornerback at the end there. But there's no other quarterback on that roster who can make that throw. You saw why he is the future of Clemson football. I'm not saying he has to start at Texas A&M. I don't know if he's necessarily earned that right, but he is the better quarterback, and there's no doubt in my mind.
All right. Well, we shall see what happens this week. I would imagine that Bryant's going to be the starter.
Yes.
Simply because he is older. He didn't do anything Saturday to, cost him the starting job. And, both quarterbacks did some good things. I mean, Bryant broke off a long touchdown run, which is very important to their offense with what he can give you. He had a couple of poor throws. So did Trevor Lawrence. So, you saw it in person. I've watched it on tape, and it's hard to judge when you're facing an opponent that's
Right.
overmatched. But boy, Clemson can really run the weapons at you. I mean, here comes Lynn J. Dixon.
He was
now,
great.
all of a sudden into the running backs mix. When you've already got ETN, and I'm not so sure how much they're going to get out of Feaster and Adam Choice.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, even Justin Ross, who on his first play in the football game, they basically had to call him from one end of the sideline onto the field, and his first play ends up being a slip screen where he literally slipped through 3 or 4 defenders for a touchdown from Trevor Lawrence. And, you know, you saw the future. You saw the great recruiting that this group has done in order to solidify the foundation of the future at Clemson. And we're also seeing, I think, in my mind, Corn, a new way to utilize what is becoming a problem in college football, and that's a lot of people who are entitled at the quarterback position. You saw it in Nebraska, the one guy who transferred out one day after losing his job. He now ends up at Oregon State, which is the report that came out today. So from my perspective, I think that Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney are innovators in the fact that they've found a way to keep both the incumbent and the guy who enters happy. And at least on the outside, we don't know what's going on the inside, but at least outwardly, they're saying and doing all the right things.
I'm not so sure that Jalen Hurts is happy.
No, I'm talking about it at Clemson. I'm talking about it at Clemson.
They're happy today. Whichever one loses playing time down the road, especially fourth quarter playing time with the game on the line.
Well, Jalen Hurts isn't happy, and I think Jalen Hurts cost himself a little bit of goodwill with Nick Saban because of the way that he spoke out. And I think that might have been just even the reason why he didn't start last week. And
Tua backed it up on Saturday.
He did.
Played extremely well.
The key about Jalen Hurts is he is, again, the insurance policy because, let's face it, one of the great things about Tua is also a negative about Tua is he will hold the ball a long time, and he takes some kill shots when he throws it. And that means that if he gets this bell wrong, you would rather wave in Jalen Hurts than anybody that hadn't taken a snap.
And I'd have to say I was impressed by the Gamecocks. When you were there for that, I didn't think that a Will Muschamp team could score 49 points. Well, I didn't think that they could hold off the cover, but they did. And I'm impressed.
Some thoughts on the Gamecocks. Just, you got to kind of nitpick to find some things that they need to work on. Donnell Stanley's got to improve his snapping. The ball was floating the entire game, and Bentley was always having to bend to pick up the snap. That's got to be improved. They had too many penalties. They had 9 for 99, and this is a team last year that was among the least penalized in the country. Had a little bit of trouble with the speed option with the quarterback at Coastal. Of course, DJ Wanham going down with the injury was a scare, but it's just an ankle sprain, should be fine. They're not going to have Nick Harvey for the first half against Georgia. These guys have got to figure out and learn not to lead with the noggin, not to lead with the crown, no matter what point in the game. This was late in the game. The game was over, and he's just trying to deliver a hit. You can't do that. But on the positive side, offensive line was dominating at times. I mean, there were times they just pushed Coastal down the field. I thought Bentley looked very good. He looked relaxed. He looked confident. He threw the ball on the money. And, of course, having Deebo Samuel back is worth five-star freshman recruits in a class. I just think he gives them that extra bit of confidence in that they know they've got a guy that can take it to the house anytime.
Yeah, it was funny when they talked to Deebo after the game. The guy said, well, Deebo, a great one-handed catch. He said the only way I could catch it, the guy had my other arm. It wasn't no other way I could catch it. I think also, Phil, the body language on 4th and short, it was no hesitation. Yeah, we're going for this because we're going to knock people off the ball. This short yardage crap, we're going to get rid of that nonsense right off. So a couple of times when you would think you wouldn't go on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, they lined right up in the line of scrimmage and just shoved them off the line. I thought Nick Harvey, yeah, it was borderline, but I think it was a bad call. I thought his head was going forward, but he led with the shoulder. So I wouldn't have thrown him out of the game. That's just my opinion.
One thing that's a positive for both is that they got the games over early, got to play a lot of guys, and we were at to see real decisive victories by both. We hear from you next, 800-956-7266 on the Gamecocks and Clemson.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
It was a good first week for both South Carolina and Clemson here on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network, but the competition ramps up. South Carolina and Georgia, 3:30 CBS on Saturday, and of course Saturday night in College Station under the lights at Kyle Field, a nationally televised matchup between Clemson and Texas A&M, and there will be 102,000 standing screaming. And what was the thing we were talking about last week? The get-in prices for the face value, both over $100 for both games?
Well, I know in Columbia it's 110 on the face. I imagine the Texas,
125.
Texas A&M and Clemson. Yeah, no, it's going to be steep. Quickly around the state over the weekend. Of course, you know what happened with USC, Clemson, Coastal, and Furman. South Carolina State lost it. Georgia Southern to open the season. The Citadel and Wofford, another great game.
Classic.
Wofford wins it. Citadel has it inside the 5 on the last play of the game and couldn't score. So good game there. Charleston Southern, no contest at Florida, though Charleston Southern rushed for 222 yards in that game. Something to keep in mind with Florida. I mean, you give up 222 yards. I know you won easily, but that has to be something to
wonder how much of that was
there.
Wonder how much of that was late.
I don't know. I had to break it down. Newberry gave Western Carolina a great game, as I thought they would, losing in overtime. Of course, North Greenville won at Tusculum, and Limestone lost at Gardner-Webb. I did not catch. Did you catch Benedict, Florida Tech? Anybody? I did not catch how that game turned out.
Florida Tech, I think, won that.
Florida Tech won? Okay. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. It's Labor Day night. Thank you for being with us. If you're out by the pool, maybe wrapping up a round on the course, playing some tennis, swimming in the lake, going for a walk, whatever the case may be, we're glad you're with us.
33-14 Florida Tech over.
Also, with their reinstituting football, Allen won their first game.
Now, what level are they? NAIA?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to include them next year on the tour, give us an even dozen. And then in 2020, we'll have Erskine and give us 13 tour stops.
Baker's dozen.
Yes. Okay. You two guys think alike. That's a scary, scary thought. Mike in Columbia, happy Labor Day to you, sir. Welcome in on our 35th anniversary.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good.
Good. I just want to say I'm a long-time Clemson fan. I really believe with Clemson's schedule as weak as it is this year that they could play Chase Bryce and win all 12 games.
I've been saying that since April.
Maybe. But, I mean, if they play in Alabama and Kelly Bryant's quarterback again, they're going to get smoked again. I mean, because they can't throw the ball downfield. I just wondered what y'all thoughts were when y'all thought Lawrence would actually be named the starter. I'll hang up and listen to you call.
I think it will take a couple more games. I think you might see them break in maybe Trevor in, say, the Georgia Southern game, maybe, depending on how he does against Texas A&M. But in my mind, again, there's no question who the better quarterback based on ability is. The big question is now, can you live with the freshman mistakes? Or can you live with the inconsistency of Kelly? Neither guy is a finished product right now or a full product right now.
Well, I think the key point is to define what a mistake is, because when you have a weapon potentially like Trevor Lawrence, you're going to ask him to take chances that you wouldn't. So if he throws an interception, you got to go to the sideline and say, great. That's what we need out of you. We needed you to take that chance down. And so don't call it a mistake, but call him just a missed chance that he needs to squeeze in the eye of a needle.
Every decision he didn't make all the throws accurately, but every decision he made was made with conviction.
Mm-hmm. Well, just watching the tape as I have done, and I don't like to draw conclusions when a powerhouse plays an FCS.
Right.
You just can't draw conclusions. I do wonder about Lawrence's running ability. I know they've said he runs pretty well, but he does look, I'm not going to say slow of foot because you really couldn't judge off of that, but I wonder against now a faster, more athletic defense, if you put him out there and Texas A&M is able to put pressure on him, how's he going to handle that? Is he going to be able to escape? Does he have that gear that Kelly Bryant has to keep a play alive or escape from the rush? I think that's something to consider when you go into a place like Texas A&M. I think, Bryant's got to get off to a good start Saturday. He got off to a shaky start following your tweets up there from Saturday. He got off to a shaky start, and but he bounced back, and then he got the team into the end zone.
Looked a lot better after halftime.
Yeah. A key part in that game, not that Furman was ever going to contest, but the bad snap over the quarterback's head.
Right.
Really kind of took the wind out of their sails. They quickly Clay Hendricks was not fooling around. I mean, he benched the starting quarterback after the first series, right?
He had 3 quarterbacks he ran out there.
All right, thank you for the call, 800-956-7266. Couple lines are open. We go to Billy in Surfside Beach. Hello, Billy. Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil. What's up, fellas?
How are you, sir?
Oh, man, I'm doing well. Just did a little grilling out, left the beach, and so forth, and I was taking you guys in. Hey, my overall perception of the college football weekend, Phil, you know as well as you and Alan Smothers know, I'm a diehard Clemson fan, and I'll give you my input, and I'll make it short. The ACC, I think, laid a total egg, and that's the conference Clemson's in, but I wouldn't make a strong, just opinion on the ACC is going to suck and all that good stuff that everybody seems to be putting out. But I'll say this. I look at the overall college football landscape, and I see from the line of scrimmage and talent, I think it's Clemson, Alabama, still the class of college football. And Will, I agree with you 110%. Trevor Lawrence is the better quarterback because, like I said, wide receivers come to Clemson to go vertical, to go to the next level, and Trevor Lawrence can make it off his back foot. He can make throws off of his back foot. And for the life of me, if there's a team on Clemson's schedule, besides the college football playoff, that can line up in them and go head-to-head with that first-string defense and that line, that defensive line and the backers and the defense, with what the offense can put up with the freshmen that came in with Kendricks, Ross. I mean, we forget about Travion Thompson. You got Hunter Renfrow, Higgins. And I know I'm not judging off of Furman how the season's going to go, but let's face it. I think Clemson, the line came out, one line off of Las Vegas Insider had them at 9. One line came up to College Station at 13. I think Clemson's going to punish A&M. And Jimbo, I think he's going to go back pretty sad to his house. I really do. I really do, because I think Clemson's going to punish their ass. I really do. And I'll tell you one more thing. But anyway, Phil, one more thing, but I'll say this right here. Clemson and Alabama will lace them up again. I hope they get matched up. And I remember this. What is it? September the 2nd, September the 3rd. I'm telling you, the class of the league still Alabama. Class of the league of college football still Alabama and Clemson. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll say this. Kelly did make one good throw. He made the big throw to Amari Rodgers, though, very similarly to the game they played last year against Kent State, where he made that long throw to Deion Kane. I said the same thing after that one as I said about the one to Rodgers. That's a throw you can make against Furman, and it was a telegraphed pump and go. I don't know if you can make that throw against any other team that's on your schedule.
Now, I will tell Billy this. Billy, you've heard me say this time and again. To me, there's no difference in a blowout in a close game, because sometimes you got to blow a team out to win the football game. If I'm Clemson, I, like you, believe I better take control of A&M early, because as long as you let them stay in that game and those 102,000 people screaming in there, they're going to start to believe they can beat you. So so my first order of business is not only execution, but to put the finger up and get that crowd as quiet as you can get them early.
Well, of course, they blew up Northwestern State. They put up some big numbers. They had really good balance running and throwing the football. But again, that's an opponent against which you can't really judge a team. But you do know that A&M has got some athletes, and you know that Jimbo has got them excited. They showed Jimbo's pregame speech, and he can really get into your head and make you play better than you really are. So Clemson had better be ready for a big shot to the head early on. If they can withstand it and establish control of the game, then they should win.
Mobile quarterback scares me. A&M's defense does not at all. We'll come back. We'll hear from some Clemson and Carolina players when we return on Sports Talk. Recruiting coming up. A big local offer goes out to somebody in state. I'm sorry. I can't.
No, that's good.
I can't.
That's good.
I can't. I'm sorry. I wanted to.
You got to offer the in-state kids.
I want to so bad.
You
but
got to go
can't.
for it.
I don't have the stomach to give you that argument today. I really don't. But you had some other.
Well, it's just another argument you would lose.
No, it's not. It's just one.
Oh, you would.
We'd not lose the argument.
No,
It's
you would.
It's one of those things that you and I will never agree on.
Just one of many.
Yeah. You have some other notes.
Well, just some observations from checking out games and some notes from the weekend. Number one, kudos to Kevin Steele.
Yes.
Calling an all-out blitz on 4th down with Washington inside the plus area on 4th down. Last play of the game for Washington, he called an all-out blitz. They sacked Browning on back-to-back plays to win that game, survive, finally winning in Atlanta. So kudos to Kevin Steele for a great defensive call there. I mentioned Charleston Southern rushing for 222 yards in that loss to Florida. Sam Hartman out of Oceanside. We talked with David Shelton about him, but what a great performance he had for Wake Forest.
Miami laying a real egg last night against LSU, man.
That was pretty ugly. Of course, Alabama just stuffed Louisville's running game. I think Louisville had like 9 rushing yards against Alabama. A little surprised Arkansas. They scored a bunch of points, but they only rushed for 91 yards in their game. Well, Chad Morris likes a good running game to go with the passing game.
I could see that, from that Alabama-Louisville game, Bob Petrino no longer wears that neck brace because you could see him going back and forth, getting whiplash. Alabama running all over the field against them. No.
I will say this about Alabama.
It's just not funny.
He was laughing.
He laughs at everything.
Tua is a guy that throws well, but you could almost sense that Alabama can tell that Nick Saban is a little bit shaky about that secondary. So he said, let's get some points early. And so we will make Louisville one-dimensional. And that's when those defensive backs start to show, because early on you could tell he was nervous about that secondary.
Something for USC to ponder down the road. Ole Miss opened up with an impressive win at Texas Tech. They had a 200-yard rusher and a 300-yard passer.
I don't think anybody disputes that Ole Miss has a good offense. They just wonder whether or not they can get it done defensively.
North Carolina fell behind big at Cal, came back, made a game out of it, but they sure didn't show much. Their quarterback, Nathan Elliott, pretty much all their offense.
How long before they fire Larry?
Could be this year. And Boston College, Clemson's got to go up there against UMass, which is an FBS team. They had 600-plus yards, and they rushed for 322 yards. So just some of the notes picking up from games over the weekend. And now we look ahead to tonight's game. By the way, I should mention that in our Sports Talk Pigskin Pick'em Challenge coming out of the weekend, I am perfect so far. Only me and the bad boy, Alan Smothers, got the 4 right over the weekend. Now we'll differ on tonight. I've got Florida State tonight. He's got Virginia Tech. Pro, you've got Virginia Tech. Everybody's got Virginia Tech except for me and the money coach.
Interesting.
So I just think the Seminoles at home, I think the quarterback's going to be good. I think he's going to fit right in with what Willie Taggart likes to do. I love the running backs and the receivers. I look for Florida State to put points on the board.
Virginia Tech is always a sneaky opponent. They're great on defense. They're great on special teams. Quarterback is back. I think that's too many points. I think that they'll keep it within a score. I think they'll win.
I think they will too. And I know they played a weaker opponent, but I tell you what, all the trial problems they've had, Ohio State still got a bunch of athletes on that team.
They need to lose every game.
It looks like a track meet.
I'm rooting hard for when they play TCU in a couple weeks.
All right, our phone number, 800-956-7266. Your observations from over the weekend, Gamecock Tigers or others. And by the way, anybody who went to the games in the afternoon in Columbia and in Clemson, I tip my hat to you. It had to be miserable out there. It just had to be miserable.
It wasn't nice. And,
man, I just it's a shame that they have to play those games this time of year during that time of the day when they should be played at night, but they do it because their conferences and their TV networks dictate, and that's too bad for the paying customer. Eventually, the paying customer is just going to say, screw you, I'm going to just stay home. I'll come for the big games. I'll come for, like if you're South Carolina, I'll come for Georgia. I'll come for Texas A&M. I'll come maybe for Tennessee, and when Clemson's in town, I'll come for that. The rest of them, if you're going to play them in 100-degree heat and 80% humidity where the temperature field touch temperature is 104, no thank you. And I don't blame you. I don't blame you for not coming and sitting through that. Now, if it were a 75-degree day and it was nice and all that, and you're not there, then shame on you. But no, nobody's pointing the fingers at anybody who did not show up or left early. And, they did not come back after halftime in Columbia. How about at your place?
They were not there.
Yeah, I don't blame them. It's just miserably hot. Miserably hot.
By the way, if you notice any silence out there, no complaints from players, coaches, fans, or anything about the new turf.
There was
And also, this was interesting. On a hot, humid day, Muschamp said they did not require one IV during the game or after the game, and no cramping. So that's a tribute to what they're doing in the weight and conditioning program. Have any issues like that up the upstate?
Nothing up there. No.
Yeah, all right. But you did get a chance to see the hair in action.
Speaking of the heat, there was probably no greater heat than on one person than there was on Trevor Lawrence on Saturday. Here's a little bit of his post-game media availability.
Oh, it was awesome. Been waiting on it a while. Been practicing hard for, I guess, 9 months now. So it was good to finally get out there.
You didn't show any nerves going out there for the first time. Any butterflies at all with that?
A little bit right before I went in. Definitely, yeah. At first, just had to get in a routine. So after that, I was good, though.
What was the hardest thing to adjust to in the game?
I mean, everyone says speed, but it's probably true. Just the defense is changing at post snap, just stuff like that. That's probably the biggest thing.
How much different did it feel for you after halftime?
Felt a lot more comfortable for sure. Just getting in a routine, getting in a rhythm. Going back in the second half, felt a little more comfortable, so it was good.
Did you feel like you took a monkey off your back with that first one that you got in there?
Yeah, no, definitely. It was good to get this first one under my belt.
Coach Streeter say the plan was to bring you in when they did in the first half.
Yeah, they told me beginning of this week, and we kind of had a plan, and so I mean I was ready for that and worked out well.
Trevor, what's it been like going through this quarterback battle for the past, I guess, since you got here this spring?
It's been really good. It's definitely made me better, and I think it's made Kelly a lot better too. So just us competing, and we have a good relationship. So it's been really good for us and the team.
Trevor, I'm sure when you think about your first game, it's something that you've been thinking about for a while. What was different with the reality versus what the perception was for you?
It's not much different than what we've been doing in practice and everything. I mean, there's a lot of fans and that, obviously. But other than that, I mean, it's just football, you know. So at the end of the day, you just got to make plays. And, yeah, that's pretty much it.
How would you grade how you played today?
I don't know exactly like how I would grade. I think I played pretty well. I missed a few throws, definitely that I wish I would have hit. But as far as decision making and everything, I felt like it was pretty good.
What was it like coming in and out of the game and kind of that rotation?
We've been doing that in practice and everything, so we're kind of used to it, and I'm kind of used to it. So it wasn't much different than practice, really.
With the long off-season battle and all the hype that's been around the quarterback battle, do you feel like a little bit of a weight has been lifted off your shoulders now that you've got a game under your belt?
Yeah, just kind of. I mean, it's just been crazy. People talking everything about everything, and it's just good to get out there. And me and Kelly just kind of split time and play well, both of us. So it was good just to get that first one under our belt and feel really good going to the next one.
You developed a favorite receiver?
I don't really have a favorite. We got like 10 good ones. So I mean, I couldn't tell you that.
How would you describe the attention you've gotten since you've gotten on campus?
I mean, it's been a lot, but nothing too crazy. I mean, just like a normal student going to class and stuff. It's not been that much, so it's been good.
Is it something that you embrace, or?
Yeah, I embrace it. I try to definitely avoid some situations as far as like lots of people and stuff like that. But other than that, it's been good.
I feel like you had something to prove coming in, and if so, did you prove it?
I didn't really feel like I had anything to prove. I mean, we've been, like I said, me and Kelly, we've been competing all spring, all fall, and everything. So, I mean, we've been handling it on the field, and didn't feel like I really had to prove anything, but definitely wanted to have a good first game just to kind of start the season the right way.
I know that was the first opportunity for the media up there to get a chance to talk to Trevor Lawrence. Anybody have tears in their eyes, anything like that, you know, as far as being emotionally overcome with the opportunity to get anybody reach out and touch him? Maybe get a little bit of his perspiration in a cup so they could take it home and
I've been joking that I want to get a lock of his hair to add to my Clemson voodoo altar.
They're clamping down on the media up there, you know.
Oh.
New policies in place. Better be on your best behavior.
And guess what? It couldn't have come anytime sooner.
Now back to sports. Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
We're back on Sports Talk and still want to hear from you. 800-956-7266 on the Gamecocks and on Clemson. We're brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Whether it's low rates or high rewards, using select Founders credit cards on clothes, school supplies, a new computer, even college tuition will help prepare your kids for their first day of school. Apply online at foundersfcu.com/visa.
All righty, 800-956-7266. A lot of recruiting coming up. Of course, Clemson got a commitment over the weekend. We got basketball news for you as well. We'll get to that in a moment. Also going to hear from Deebo Samuel, who is back and giving the Gamecocks something big on offense. Dan in Charlotte, you're up next here on Sports Talk. Good evening. How are you?
Phil, I went to a Carolina game, and I stayed to the very end. But anyway,
were you sitting on the sunny side or the shady side?
I was on the west upper deck. I was in the sunshine the whole game.
Yeah. Was it miserable?
Well, to me, it was all right. I just drank plenty of water, and I just dealt with it. I just dealt with it.
Mindset. It's all about mindset. Heat and cold's just in your mind.
You get a nice little tan up there?
Of course.
Yeah. What'd you think of the Gamecocks?
Well, I thought I was really pleased with the way Jake played. You could tell that he had a lot of off-season coaching with the new quarterback coach. He was composed, and you could tell his fundamentals were drastically improved. I was pleased with the offense and the first offense and the second team offensive lines. They were really good.
Mm-hmm.
Now the second team defensive line, they didn't play as well as I thought they should have played. And Muschamp even said that too. The one freshman who really stood out to me was J.C. Horn. He's good. He's going to be really good for Carolina. And I watched the West Virginia game, and I'm going to tell you what, that Appalachian State, they can play with anybody in the country. I watched the end of that game with Penn State. I don't know how long that coach has been there, but I'm going to tell you what, he'll be in a Power 5 school if he keeps having putting teams on the field like that.
Satterfield has been there. Satterfield has built himself a nice program at Appalachian State. And you know what?
He's going to get a gig.
That was the 7-year anniversary of their win at Michigan. That would have been something if they'd have pulled that off. Yeah.
And one more thing, if I was anybody, I wouldn't want to play that crowd from West Virginia either. Yeah. I'm telling you that Will Greer.
He's good.
Oh my goodness! I mean, he is just good.
Maybe they're the sleeper. Maybe West Virginia is going to be the sleeper to get into the playoff. We're looking for new blood in the playoff. It could be West Virginia.
They'd have to go undefeated. One note I did want to pass along while we were talking about the USC defense on Sunday's teleconference with Will Muschamp. He did say that DJ Wanham is going to be immobilized in a boot over the next couple of days. They expect to have him back at practice on Wednesday, though Will Muschamp said he knows the defensive scheme about as well as anybody. He does not necessarily need to take as many practice reps during the week in order to get ready for Georgia. He does not expect him to miss the game against the Bulldogs.
All right, thank you for your phone call. Good stuff. 800-956-7266. If you want to jump on board on this Labor Day night, recruiting is coming up for you here in just a moment, but Saturday marked the return to game action of Deebo Samuel. And folks were ecstatic about having him back in a Gamecock uniform. I think he just, in the very first play of the game, they threw him a little pass to get him going and made a great touchdown catch. He had an overall very good comeback game for the Gamecocks. He was involved in the offense, both catching the football and a little bit of running the football. He finished with a team-high 7 catches, 56 yards, and a spectacular one-handed touchdown catch. He had 1 carry for 11 yards. Expect his role to continue to expand as they move forward with Georgia this week. Here's a little bit with Deebo, because Deebo doesn't say a whole lot. Everything with Deebo is a little bit. Here is Samuel, his thoughts coming back to a game action with the Gamecocks.
Be an obvious question, but to get out there, to get a touchdown in your first game back from injury, what was it like?
It was amazing, man. It's been 11 months, and I've been able to play against another opponent, and I was just glad I was get back out there and play.
Debo, tell us about the touchdown catch. And was that kind of similar to the one in opening game last year against NC State? It was kind of a one-handed grab in the corner of the end zone.
It was kind of similar, but it wasn't on purpose. As you can see, I went up and the dude had my right arm, and I had no choice but to put one hand up to try to catch it.
Obviously, coming back today, what was last night like before going to sleep? I mean, did you have a tough time sleeping?
Honestly, I really couldn't even sleep. I was in and out of sleep all night long.
Obviously, Georgia coming up next week is a huge game. You didn't get to play against them. Is that how eager are you to get a chance to go up against them next week?
I wouldn't say I was eager. We're just going to take it day by day and get ready for next Saturday.
Well, what have you noticed from Jake? I mean, obviously you've worked with him the last 3 years, but today a lot of composure out there, and especially that drive right before the end of the half.
We practice 1 minute really every day at practice. So, I mean, he's a level-headed guy. He's a leader. I mean, you get the same Jake every day in and day out.
You guys broke out some different, maybe quirky, weirder stuff on offense today at certain points. Is that something that's fun for you guys, or is it just kind of plays or plays?
It plays its place. I mean, we've been in and out of the playbook every day. They give us the playbook to take home to make sure we know everything and make sure we know every call that they's going to throw out there at us.
Put a lot of emphasis on the deep ball in camp and in the offseason. Do you feel like you were able to showcase that today, and how well do you feel like you stretched the field vertically?
I wouldn't say we really threw the ball as well as we should have today. We made a couple good plays outside, but we're going to be aggressive every time we out there.
You got to love Debo. The thing I love about Debo when you interview him in that setting is, first of all, he's got these big eyes, and he looks right at you. He does not blink when he's answering. But every answer is going to be 7 seconds and no longer.
People out of our brethren have to stop asking him closed-ended questions too. But that's just my.
I don't think it makes any difference with Debo. He's giving you 7 seconds, and that's it.
But I tell you what, we always talk about the guy who's the big weapon. I think Muschamp thought that if he had a couple of more blocks on the kickoff, better blocking, he could have taken that one to the house, because he was complaining, hey, we should have had some returns at that kickoff. But the guy who returned that really got my eye was Bryson Allen Williams. There are many times when he was in the opponent's backfield all day. And I said, you know what? There's another thing they missed, that rush on the other side of Wanham, and now they have it back with him.
All right, let's go to Hank in Columbia. Next phone call here on Sports Talk before the top of the hour. Hello, Hank.
Hey, Phil.
Hey.
I was calling for the Carolina game Saturday. What I was impressed with was, one, from Jake's standpoint, 11 different people caught the ball. And it seemed like even though he used Debo, he seemed a whole lot better in the pocket, scanning and finding who was open and hitting them, and he spread it around. And I was really impressed when they brought in the backup offensive line, because we've seen normally in these type games, when they ship a whole offensive line in there and backups, the offense kind of goes to disaster. But that backup offensive line was doing some work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when they brought those guys in. I mean, the game was well put away, and the Scarnecchia was in at quarterback, but you saw some of Javon Gwynn, you saw some of Rhodes, all the backup guys there, I thought, handled themselves pretty well. But again, you got to consider the opposition at that point and kind of what you were facing. They'll get further tests down the road, but they need those second tier, those second string offensive linemen to be able to give them some time.
It's not just Debo that gives them offensive efficiency. It's the threat of Debo and his presence that makes other guys open and opens up the whole rest of the field and the options to Jake Bentley. That was what was missing last year, because a lot of ways Debo was a crutch for this team. Now, they didn't know how to figure it out last year, at least at the beginning. They kind of figured it out and figured out a little bit of way how to do it as the season progressed, but it was never going to be what it was with him in the lineup. And now with him back, you not only can take advantage of his explosiveness, but also the rest of the complement of the receivers.
Josh Belt got a little bit of a run out there as well. That is one big human being.
He's huge, isn't he? Had you never seen him before?
I'm trying to think. Did I ever see him before in person? Did not see him in the Shrine Bowl because he wasn't there, and didn't go out to any practices. They didn't make him available for press conferences, so that's the first time.
He's big.
I'll put it this way. Javon Kinlaw looks emaciated.
Yes.
Standing next to Belt.
Kinlaw looks like a different person out there. They're wearing that number 3.
Kinlaw's got less body fat than I do, which is saying something.
All right, top of the hour recruiting, more calls and more coming up.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Okay, we are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, 800-956-7266. And Bryson DeChambeau has won again in the FedEx playoffs, the Dell Technologies Championship.
Pretty soon everyone's going to be using the clubs with the same length now. That's his deal, you know. He does all his clubs are the same length.
Interesting. I think mine are too. Does that make a difference?
I mean, it's the thing. It's not. It's a unique thing.
Yeah. 67 for him today. He finishes at 16 under, 2 ahead of Justin Rose, 3 ahead of Cameron Smith. Dustin Johnson finishes at 11 after a 64 today. Bubba Watson at 11. Phil Mickelson shoots 63, finishes at 10 under, as does Jordan Spieth. Kyle Stanley and Rory McIlroy. Kevin Kisner finishes at 7. Tiger Woods at 7 after a 71. And Russell Henley at 2 under after a 72. Now, let's give you the recruiting report. Then we're going to talk a little NASCAR before we get back to football. First in recruiting, we'll start on the basketball side. 6'7" Christian Brown made his official with Clemson over the weekend. He got the star treatment. He went to the president's home, Jim Clements, and met with him and said he really enjoyed the football game, the energy there. And he heard some good things from Brad Brownell and Steve Smith, who is recruiting him, the lead recruiter. Got a lot of FaceTime with them, and they're encouraging him to join them as they have a lot of things coming up, including the 2019 USA World University Games, he said. And also they're talking to him about how much he could impact others from the state to play in-state. Clemson, he said, is his favorite in-state school. Well, they're the only in-state school he's considering at this point. He's also taken an official to UNLV, and he's had Georgia LSU on his short list, but he does not have any other visits scheduled. He's going to, he said, get to work now that his turf toe has healed, and he's opening up his recruitment before making a final list. And, of course, he's got to finalize plans for a new high school, apparently in Georgia. He's not returning to Lower Richland High School, but those final plans, he said, are still in the works. USC Sunday offered 6'1" shooting guard and point guard Trey Jackson of Blythewood. He took an official to Winthrop over the weekend. He's also been to Murray State. He'll visit Florida Gulf Coast on September 17th. Iowa State's also going to get a visit, and perhaps USC. He did not say for sure if USC is going to get an official. 2021 point guard Tyler Rice of Ridgeview went to Penn State over the weekend. He was offered by the Nittany Lions, his first offer. He's also been to South Florida, and he visited USC last October. He's planning another unofficial with the Gamecocks soon. 6'11" Malcolm Wilson of Ridgeview took his official visit to Rice over the weekend. He goes to Georgetown September 14th. He had planned an official at Clemson, but his assistant coach at Ridgeview and his AAU coach, Christian Savage, said they won't schedule one to Clemson because he's been there multiple times. He said Clemson remains under consideration. 2020, 6'8", P.J. Hall, Dorman, went to Florida over the weekend unofficially. Florida is strong on him for basketball, and also in his mind, his sister goes to Florida. She plays volleyball down there. His sister, I believe, if I'm thinking of the same person, was like the state's top volleyball recruit coming out of Dorman like last year. I think she's a freshman down there. 2020, Dorman 6' Miles Tate was at USC unofficially. 2021, 6'10" John Butler of Christ Church was offered by Clemson Saturday, unofficial visit. 6'2" Rakia Jackson of Detroit took an official to the USC over the weekend. She's one of the nation's elite lady recruits. Now to football, Clemson over the weekend, a commitment from offensive lineman John Williams, 6'5", 270, 2020 class, their third. He was in for the Furman game. Other offers for him were Ole Miss, Tennessee, Maryland, Memphis, NC State, North Carolina, Wisconsin. He said Clemson had been number one with him since he first visited back in the 8th grade. And when they offered earlier this month, he said it was a no-brainer. Actually, last month, said it was a no-brainer. He loves the feel at Clemson, and he likes the way Robbie Caldwell handles the offensive lineman. The Tigers have just one offensive lineman committed thus far for the 2019 class, and they are scheduled to lose 7 offensive linemen over the next 2 seasons.
Needs more.
2020 receiver Jalen Hyatt of Dutch Fork, off to a great start for the 2-0 Silver Foxes. He was at Clemson over the weekend unofficially. He feels that the Tigers are very close to offering him. He already has offers from Virginia Tech and Duke. He says he wants to get back up to Clemson for the next home game. He was really impressed with what he saw inside Death Valley. He also has been to USC. The Gamecocks are highly interested, and he has plans to visit there again, but he's not sure when. Long snapper Seth Glauser, Jefferson, Georgia, was at USC Saturday. The Gamecocks have invited him back for the Georgia game this weekend. He was at their specialist camp over the summer, and he was invited to their specialist camp over the summer, but he had to go on vacation. But they still like him a lot nonetheless, and that's why they have invited him in. 2020 defensive back Luke Hill of Washington, a Clemson and USC target, had planned a Friday night commitment announcement. His team's game got pushed back to Saturday, so he postponed that announcement. It has not happened yet. And Clemson offered 2020 offensive lineman Seth McLaughlin of Buford, Georgia, on Saturday. He also has USC and Georgia offers. There you go with a long and meaty recruiting report. We remind you to check out our recruiting regularly on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag #STRecruiting. Very quickly, Brad Keselowski gets his first ever Bojangles Southern 500 win last night. His thoughts?
I would say it's pretty damn cool. This is such a special racetrack. It always has been, and I think it always will be. And when we added in all this retro stuff a few years ago, it's like a spark that just reignited this track as just being stupid cool. I mean, to win here and to win wearing Rusty's colors and driving his car, it kind of feel like I'm in a dream from when I was 10 years old, but it's something I'll carry forever. It's probably the biggest win of my career, especially with it being a weekend sweep at one of the toughest tracks on the circuit. And today was no different. So I'm just really, really thankful, really, really proud, thankful of the team effort that it took to win this race. That last pit stop put me in position, and of course we had to capitalize on it, but we were in position and the pit crew nailed it. I got a great launch out of the pit box, and I couldn't have beat Larson by a foot. I haven't seen the pit road cam, but man, that was cool. And I knew if we could get out front, we were really strong on the short runs, not as strong as he was on the long runs. But I knew if we could get out front there with, 20 or so to go, that we could drive away. And I was just praying every lap there wouldn't be a caution, and just we were setting sail and just please no caution, please no caution. And it came through for us.
Touched on that final restart. What was going through your head and how close it was? What was going through your head while you're sitting there on pit road, those 10, 15 seconds or so, and then also as you're finally coming off and with how close it was?
Yeah, I was watching Kyle's crew, and I think our pit stop was just it couldn't have been a hair faster. It was just enough. And I got out of the box, and I just hit the perfect launch. And I probably gained, 4 or 5 foot just by executing the launch out of the box. And I got right up beside him, and, you're looking at him, and then you're looking at your tack and you're or whatever that electronic crap is. And, you're looking at all of it, and you're trying to maximize it, to be perfect. And you're like, oh, I hope I wasn't speeding. And that was what I was saying. As soon as I got to the line, I'm like, I think I got him by like a half a foot. And you're just waiting, like, oh, here comes a speeding penalty. Here it comes. Here it comes. And the second the spotter, keys the radio up for that first time, you like cringe. And then he said, okay, 19 to go. You're like, man, that's like waiting for your death sentence. And it didn't come. So I'm thankful for that. But that turn of events was certainly in our favor.
So what you're telling me is he's a little aggressive with his speed on pit road. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, he was hoping it wasn't too aggressive, but a terrific night at Darlington. Kudos to Kerry Tharp, the whole crew there, and tremendous crowd. Place was practically filled to the brim. So a lot of fun. Good job, folks at Darlington. We got 1st and 10 with the coach coming up.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
We are back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Whether it's low rates or high rewards, using select Founders credit cards on clothes, school supplies, a new computer, even college tuition will help prepare your kids for their first day of school. Apply online at foundersfcu.com/visa. It is 1st and 10. And Zach Willis, the head coach, on the line.
It is good to have him with us now that we are into the regular season. We got the appetizers behind us. We're ready for the main course, Coach, beginning this Saturday with South Carolina, Georgia, Clemson, Texas A&M. Quickly, let's wrap up the weekend. What did you take from both USC and Clemson watching their respective games?
Yeah, all in all, feel that Clemson pretty much on schedule, extremely athletic up front on defense, just wreaking havoc, and obviously highly skilled with both quarterbacks. Both of them look great. Good performance by them. South Carolina, I thought, was solid in spots early on, very solid on offense, but then, offensive line had some issues, and defensively, they were a little bit soft up front against the running game, which kind of shocked me a little bit.
What issues did you see with their offensive line at times? Are you talking about more the front line offensive line or more of the backups?
No.
You said the defensive line.
Nobody said first offense.
Well, actually, both sides.
Yeah.
But first team offensive line, I chart a thing called run throughs, and it's been an issue with those guys. They give up Coastal was running blitzes and running clean and getting hits on Bentley. They got one sack, but basically they were just too slow to get there in time. Georgia won't be, and I charted conservatively 7 run-throughs where the blitzer came clean, nobody accounted for him. He could run it back and forth and watch it, and that cannot happen this weekend against Georgia.
No doubt. I've been watching some of the game, the Georgia game, and their win over Austin Peay. Again, they were playing an inferior opponent. Now, I know they got a lot of new blood on defense, but they are athletic and they run extremely well. We'll get into that in just a moment. From a Clemson standpoint, you said right on schedule. You see anything from the Clemson video that they need to be concerned about going to A&M?
It's funny, Pete, the one area I worry about for them is their running backs, blocking. They had some issues even against Furman with Etienne and Fisher, those guys stepping up in there and taking on linebackers. Cornerbacks not so much, or they just got to be tough in there. Other than that, I thought they were extremely athletic. Obviously, you want to see Hunter Renfrow more involved, but I think it's by design not to get him beat up. He tends to get beat up during the year. They spread the ball around well, and both of their quarterbacks did a good job.
I'm going to ask you more about the QBs. How did Trevor look to you in his first collegiate game, and how would you assess his play versus Kelly Bryant's play?
I feel like Trevor Lawrence is a release, and his arm strength are just NFL level now. His decision making, he's got a little bit to go on that. After the first series, I thought he settled down, did a great job. The 20-yard outcut concept that they run, NFL scouts evaluate, he is insanely talented at delivering the ball so fast the safety never has a chance to even get over there. Like, as soon as the guy gets out of his cut, that ball's thrown, it comes to the sideline. He's hitting the guy on the numbers with it. It's just the speed and velocity of the ball. He doesn't have to put air under the ball to make that long sideline throw. He's an incredible talent. But I like Kelly Bryant's experience as a coach right now, especially going into a Texas A&M. But if he gets in trouble or gets hurt, I wouldn't hesitate to put Trevor Lawrence in the game.
How would you assess his conviction, Trevor's?
Conviction?
With his decision-making.
Be careful how you use the word conviction around football players.
I'm not going to touch that, Will. Anyway, I will touch the football part.
Yes.
I think it got better as he went along, which is normal, and I think it will only get better with more experience and more film study and obviously more game experience.
As far as South Carolina is concerned, you talked about the offensive line. I was looking at a lot of the center snaps from the shotgun that look a little bit like change-up. So I got this vision of Kirby Smart standing there with a stopwatch, timing when it got to the quarterback to see how many blitzes we can throw. That can be shored up, I'm assuming.
Well, the biggest improvement you're going to make is from the first game to the second game. That's always solid football theory, pro. And it's a great observation. Phil and I both noticed it. He was having to get a lot of them were down below his knees, around his ankles, and they were all slow. You want that thing zipped back there, and I mean in the ball. And yeah, absolutely. If Georgia times them up, the way they struggle, number one, with the snap, number two, just picking up those blitzers, it could be a long day. They have got to get that addressed. If they do, no telling what could happen on Saturday.
It is 1st and 10 with the coach, Zach Willis, here on Sports Talk. A little more on the Gamecocks and Jake Bentley. What did you see in his passing form that is different from the past, if anything? Did you see anything new that they've been working on that he carried to the field there Saturday?
I think when Jake Bentley's confident in his line and his protection, he's a completely different athlete and player than he is when he's not, as are most quarterbacks. He was getting the ball out very quick. And he did that early on again last year. North Carolina State, he shredded them. But having Debo back, even though it looked to me like Debo might have lost a step, not in skill, but just in overall speed, he was not able to separate from those coastal guys like I expected. Other than that, I thought their passing game, Bentley, they were all sharp there. I thought everything there looked really well coached and done very well. Other than the things we talked about, I'd give them an A.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, Zach, you were talking about the running backs. People were very impressed with Lynjay Dixon in camp, and obviously it showed out in the game. Some people even said, I think Jeff Scott said this, he believes that he's ahead of where ETN was at this point last year as a freshman. How do you assess that comment?
I would 100% agree with that. ETN is a speed guy. Now, he's gotten better, but you could tell, finding the holes early on, he had some big runs because he's an incredible athlete and got great speed. But this young man they've got now is a more complete back at this point, in my opinion. And if he can step up and pass protect, I would say Tony Elliott's going to play him a whole lot more as the season goes on, because that is a critical area for them.
All right, let's shift gears, look ahead, and based on what you have seen to this point, what you know about the opponents, let's take the Gamecocks in Georgia first, since that's the earlier game. What kind of chance do you give the Gamecocks at home?
If they can protect Bentley and give him a chance, they got a shot. They got a puncher's chance in that ball game. They can't have mistakes. They have to understand who they're playing. They've got to play with emotion. Muschamp will have them ready there. He's got to be a thinker. He's got to be involved with the defense, and they've got to stop the running game. That's where it starts and stops, and they've got to have a running game and protect Bentley. They've got a real good shot if the crowd shows up and gets after Georgia.
Conversely, what kind of chance do you give A&M against Clemson?
I don't know a lot about Texas A&M, but I know that's a hard place to play. If Clemson's on time and ready and not making mistakes, they'll win the game by 2 touchdowns. If not, it's anybody's ball game if they go in there and they're not focused. So they've got to be focused. But who doesn't know that?
Real quick, of all the football that you watched over the weekend or the scores in the state, outside the state, what shocked you the most?
LSU, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I was stunned at how fast they played, how hard, how well they just dominated Miami most of that ball game. And my hat was off to Coach Orgeron and their staff. They did an incredible job and dominated a very good Hurricane football team.
Coach, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you for getting the week off to a running start for us here on 1st and 10. Have a great week.
My pleasure, guys.
Zach Willis, 1st and 10. He joins us here on Monday to get it rolling. He's first up with 10 minutes of football talk with us here on Sports Talk.
He is so good, man. He's so succinct.
Is this another boy crush? Because you got a crush on Trevor Lawrence going right now, which is pretty embarrassing.
It's called a man crush. It's different than a
well, now
Trevor's
only like 16, 17 years old. That'd be like a boy.
He's like 18 years. He's 19
That's
years
still
old.
a boy. Now, Zach, it'd be a man crush. I think Trevor, it'd be like Hanson. It'd be a boy crush.
I would love to just get a 6-pack of beer and watch football with Zach Willis.
I saw Hanson in the coming out of the bathroom there at Darlington.
Don't tell me what you did with Hanson in the bathroom.
I didn't do anything with him. I just said I saw him.
I don't want to hear what you did.
One of the Hansons. There's multiple Hansons.
Not the Hanson brothers, like Slapshot. recap week number 2, really week 3, the high school scoreboard from this past week in the Palmetto State. I got that right? It's week 2, but it's really week 3.
I don't know. It's just another week of football. As we welcome in David Shelton, High School Sports Report, and the Charleston Post and Courier, we look at the other numbers on the scoreboard. We don't worry about what week it is. So, David, after another Friday night, a lot of big games, a lot of interesting scores. Fort Dorchester knocks off a team from Florida. That's a good win for them. But Spartanburg gets annihilated by a very good team from Georgia. What'd you take from this past Friday night?
Oh, well, I mean, those two games, obviously, I mean, I think Spartanburg was not favored, and they were not competitive in that game. Fort Dorchester was competitive, won the game late with 32 seconds left, I think it was. Probably played their worst game overall. But that team from Vieira was very quick, especially on defense. I spoke with Fort Dorchester's quarterback today, and he was like, yeah, they were a lot better than we expected. And he admitted maybe they took them a little lightly, wasn't quite ready to play, but they got it done. I think Greer winning again, beating Westside. That's Westside and Spartanburg back-to-back weeks. I think they proved they're a legitimate 4A team. South Point bouncing back and destroying Nation Forward. Abbeville is on an incredible roll right now offensively. They are scoring by the bushel baskets. And then, Dutch Fork hasn't given up a point yet. And I was looking at their schedule today, and, if they played their starters the entire game, they could literally not give up a point all season. Of course, we know that won't happen. They could go scoreless against that defense.
Did you figure out anything more about what happened in that awful scene from that Dutch Fork game?
Not anything other than hasn't been reported. I mean, I don't think it was. I don't know if it was a hoax or somebody heard something they didn't really hear or what, but nothing happened. It just was an unfortunate ending. Probably fortunate for Irmo that they didn't continue the game, but because it was already bad. But like I said, I think Dutch Fork is just that good. Their first 22 are really, really good.
You think we're cruising towards a Dorman Dutch Fork state championship matchup?
I think if I was a betting man, which I'm not, but except on Saturdays, I think that's where you would. I think that's where you would lean towards. I mean, there are some other teams like Gaffney we're not sure about yet, but they're going to be really good down the stretch. I think. So much goes into the next 7 or 8 weeks with injuries and things like that. I mean, Dutch Fork's a major injury away from being very average. Dorman, as good as they are offensively, if they lost, their quarterback or their outstanding running back or one of those great receivers, I mean, it could change their season. But like I said, if I was a betting guy, I would think those are the two teams that most people would lay money on.
Marlboro County beats Scotland County. Long-time rivalry game there across the border. Bulldogs off to a really good start. Are they back sort of where they used to be?
Well, the more they play, the more I think they are. They won at Sherall last week, and they don't hardly ever win at Sherall, and they beat them pretty soundly. And then beating Scotland County is something they haven't done in several years. So their schedule's so tough that you never know how good they are. But I think winning these games kind of shows that they're legit. Their defense is really fast, from what I've been told. And Dean Boyd really likes his defense. And I've said forever that if you have a good defense and a really good high school quarterback, you can win a lot of games. And their quarterback, Elijah Blair, is legit, the real deal. So, we'll see. We'll see where they go from here. But they're in a tough conference, so we'll see.
Since Corn won't ask you, could you break down Dillon's dismantling of Lada?
I thought they got rained out on Friday night. My report was that game was not played.
It rained points, and Dillon was the recipient of those points. And I mean, I think Lada is improved, and I think they're a good football team in their level. But Dillon's just had a different stratosphere right now in 3A, and in it's as good as Lada might be. They're just not ready for Dillon. And Lakeview gets Dillon this week, and that's another county rivalry. And Lakeview is going to be a team that contends for the Class A state title, but not sure how they're going to contend on Friday night. But but being the physical is going to help Lakeview. I think they're going to be able to, I don't know, hang in there a little bit, but I don't see Dillon losing in the regular season, honestly.
Yeah, I know Dutch Fort gets all the love in the Midlands, but a team that appears to be sneaky good to me, I ask your opinion, is Westwood. Beat Lower Richland, got the real good corner that's committed to South Carolina. What do you think of that club?
Yeah, I think in the preseason talk, I thought they were a team that in 4A could be a real contender. A team that could go and match up physically with South Point. They're a very physical team. They're very athletic. Cam moving there certainly strengthened their defense, kind of cut down one half of the field. He's a really good player. But I think, they're looking to make a run. I think they're right there in that group of, 4 or 5 4A teams that can certainly go and win it.
We don't see this too often, I guess. Maybe you can describe it for us, but a Brooklyn Casey who loses a shootout against Spring Valley 49-35. And of course, they played Spring Valley after they were blown by Dutch Fork. And then they have to go back, the next week. And now they got to play another team that got blown out this week, Irmo. So how does the team handle a team that may be quite angry after being blown out the previous week? Can Brooklyn Casey bounce back and handle playing a team that just got it handed to them?
I think they can, because Brooklyn Casey's a pretty good team and they play really physical. Defensively, they go after people, but this Irmo team has got a couple of weapons on offense that could easily bounce back and make this a very competitive game. It would be a toss-up game, because I think BC, coming off the way they performed defensively the other night, and granted, Spring Valley is a different animal offensively with what they do, and that's hard to prepare for. But if Brooklyn Casey's not careful, Irmo will definitely be ready to play and will beat them. That'll be a good game in the Midlands, kind of like what last week's was with Spring Valley and also between Lexington and Gilbert last week. I thought that was one of the better games in the Midlands.
All right, one last thing. I see where Wando opened up their new stadium, and I can only imagine how nice it is. Tell us how nice it is.
Well, I've only seen it from the gates. When I went by there this summer, it was locked up, and they were still working on. They were obviously construction issues. They didn't want me walking around in there, but it's a nice stadium. It's one of the nicest here in the area. Somebody asked me to compare it to River Bluff. I'm not ready to do that. But when you spend $14-15 million, you can put together a pretty nice facility, and it is a nice facility.
My Wildcats in '96, by the way, are 3-0. I just wanted to let everybody
know.
He's
a '96 fan. He's a '96
Where did that happen?
I told you it's been developing over the last couple of weeks.
Wow, I didn't. Yeah, well, they are, and that might be a good team to latch on to, at least until Abbeville.
But but I mean, listen, '96 has a great history and a great tradition.
Oh, absolutely.
You're trying to say that I'm not deserving of such tradition? Is that what you're saying?
I just think that you're a bandwagon front runner.
Said by a bandwagon front runner himself.
Well, I personally, and I don't know you very well, but I don't think you put in the time to be able to jump teams that quick.
Yeah.
I think you need a little more seasoning before you just jump on a
paprika or garlic powder. Which one?
Well, garlic salt. Oh, it's the best. Yeah. I put it on everything. And lemon pepper.
Laurie's seasoned salt is my favorite. That kind of seasoning.
This is all exciting stuff. David?
Don't make me want to go eat.
Thank you. Have yourself a great week. We'll talk to you Friday.
He said seasoning.
Okay, man. Take care.
He said seasoning. I was trying to figure out.
David Shelton, High School Sports Report, Charleston Post and Curry. Yeah, man, you need to latch onto a school and stick to it. That's just not very becoming to have a school the flavor of the month here.
The person who roots for the Yankees, and the Packers, and the Celtics.
Bishop England, I believe, was your first adopted school. Yes. They dropped you. Then you went with Whitmire. They wanted nothing to do with you. Now you're picking up 96 only because we had a discussion about where the name actually came from.
I've been interacting with some of the folks up there, too. I like their logo. Big fan of their logo.
What is their logo?
It's an N and an S. I like their logo. It's swanky.
That's good.
It's
That's
nice.
good. All right, we're going to hit a break. When we come back, hey, you know who's back? The NFL is back. That means the Panthers are back. That means Mick Mixon, the voice of the Panthers, is back. Coming up next.
field goal is up, and it is good. So Graham Gano makes it a 9-3 game.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, I've been very lucky in my career. I missed the game for a long time. But, you know, so on one hand it sucks, but on one hand I'm very thankful that I've been as lucky as I have been.
That music can mean only one thing. It is time for the NFL to rejoin us the right way. With the regular season, the preseason behind us, teams are set for the most part. I think some teams are still making a move here or a move there, but we are ready for the real NFL action to commence Thursday night. And then, of course, this weekend, the Panthers get it underway. What a great way to open the season in Charlotte against the Cowboys with the new ownership and everything else. The eyes of the country will be in on that game. And right now, our eyes are on the voice of the Panthers. Once again, joining us here for a season of NFL talk on Monday nights, it's Mick Mixon. How are you, sir?
Fantastic, Corn. I hope you had a great summer, my friend. I'm so fired up that we're back on the air with you, and the Dallas Cowboys are rolling in here to get the season started. How do you feel about opening day through the Panther lens?
Well, I feel really good, and I'll tell you why, and I hope that Eugene won't take this the wrong way. You need to hire me to be in your booth, because when I did my Palmetto Pigskin tour stop at Wofford, it was the day that the Panthers left after practicing that morning, and I was in the quarterback meeting room, and I saw all the plays up on the grease board. So I've got all that memorized now. I know everything about the offense. I can break it down for you left and right without question.
Coach Kornblut, it's got a great ring to it.
I like it. I like assistant head coach. You don't have to make me the head coach, just assistant head coach.
He can regurgitate it. I don't know if he can actually analyze what it means in plain English. That's all.
Anyway, you tell me about the Panthers. You've seen them all preseason. Of course, it's hard to read the team when so many of the veterans are playing so little. What do you think about the entire preseason from what you saw and what they'll put on the field Sunday?
Yeah, just looking, if you try to get up to 25, 30,000 feet, Corn, and look down on it, I think the stated goal of the Panthers through OTAs, minicamp, Wofford, and then the preseason going into this year was to get faster. And I think they did that. I think that with Damiere Byrd back, with Curtis Samuel back, I think that with Dante Jackson, Rashawn Golan in the back end, the other receivers that were brought in, I think that there's more foot speed there, that the Panthers will have the juice to stress other teams defensively and to run down receivers and ball carriers when the Panthers are playing deep. I think the intersection of Norv Turner's career and Cam Newton's life is an amazing place where Newton has been impressed with Norv Turner, that he's bought in, and I think that that Norv Turner is a savant. I think he's constructed an offense for the Panthers that will change and morph and adjust, with the goal being take away what the defense does best, to be nimble enough with different styles to be able to hit a defense where it does not want to be hit. To as Bruce Lee, the great martial artist, famously said, use only that which works.
How do you feel about the defensive backs, Mick? Obviously, that was probably one of the more competitive positions throughout camp. How do you feel that those things shook out?
I guess okay, but it's the corner. The Panthers look pretty good at corner right now with some young talent there, but it's just been forever since we've had a couple of safeties that we just haven't had the consistency at safety, with a couple of skull crushers in there that other teams have had the game plan for. So, Galden can play safety and has looked good doing it. I think that, Mike Adams is a veteran pro. We'll miss Kurt Coleman and what he brought. So it'll be interesting to see, because in this division, and this may be the genesis of your question, because in the NFC South, if you're not pretty sound in the back, I mean, you get carved up like you're on rollerblades out there with these quarterbacks the Panthers have to face just in the division alone.
And they don't have a Corn in the broadcast booth, but they have a Corn in the secondary with Corn Elder.
Ah, nice touch.
Cornelius Elder, that is right. And one of the great stories of the preseason that Elder made the 53. He had a full ride. Corn probably covered his basketball recruiting somewhere, if we go back through the early issue, not early issues because it's been around a long time, but past issues of the recruiting news. Elder had a full ride basketball to Purdue, but decided to go to Miami and play football. And so he's twitchy. He's a great athlete. So we'll see what he can do now that he's healthy.
Yeah, the recruiting news has gone the way of
the Dodo.
Yeah, the Edson,
the Blockbuster Video.
Yes, all of that. All of that's is a nice memory. Now you Ryan Khalil goes on injured reserve, so you got to adjust.
No, Matt Khalil.
I'm sorry, Matt Khalil goes on injured
Don't
reserve.
Scare me like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my bad. But you pick up Corey Robinson, the former Gamecock, in a trade with the Lions. So update us on what's happening up front with all that.
Well, I was going to ask you. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because I had on my to-do list to ask you about Corey Robinson. What kind of player have the Panthers acquired?
Well, I mean, he is a guy, if I remember correctly, who developed quite nicely at South Carolina. It took him a few years to kind of get it all together as a quality player, but he's big, and obviously he has made it in the NFL going on just, a couple of years, I think.
I think he came to South Carolina playing defensive
I think
line,
he did, too.
Yeah,
I think he did, and they moved him over to the offensive line. Athletic guy, big-bodied. Have you had a chance to see him?
Not yet. The players had the day off, so I trolled through the locker room this morning, and mostly the guys that were in there were getting treatment, and some of the practice squad guys lingering around. But I'm curious about him because he was brought here to play. Robinson was. He wasn't brought here to hold the clipboard or, fill out the roster. So, he'll be on the depth chart. He's second on the depth chart right now. I'll tell you what, Corn, Taylor Moton at left tackle. I mean, he's played right tackle most of his career and he can even play guard. He's played some guard for the Panthers, but he looks so good in the Patriots game at left tackle that it's going to be hard for Matt Khalil to get that job back when he does come back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me this, as part of Norv Turner's job, has he early on gotten into a heart-to-heart talk with Cam Newton and said, look, we want to keep you healthy throughout the season. Please trust the playbook. We're going to win those rare occasions when you have to come out of the pocket. We want you to, but we're going to keep you healthy the entire year. Just do what we have. Get rid of the ball quickly. Has he had that heart-to-heart talk yet?
I think so. I think they've talked a lot. One of the most irritated I was in the off season was when a couple friends of mine called me and said, is Norv Turner going to be able to make Cam Newton happy? I said, it's not his job. It's Cam Newton's job to make Norv Turner happy. So let's put the pyramid back on its base, pointing upward like it should be. So let's check that box. Now, I think that as quarterbacks evolve, as running quarterbacks age, they tend to run less. So I don't think you'll see the Panthers just embargo Cam Newton's running. I think the Panthers are still practicing RPOs and Cam 4th and goal from the 1, 4th and 3rd and 1 from the -30 or whatever. If you got to have a first down, let him run because he can do it. But I think to your point, they want him to run less and get the ball to somebody else more.
Very good. Listen, man, the vocal cords, everything ready to go. You're in shape. You've made it through conditioning and through off-season workouts and camp. You're ready to go. Full 16 games and beyond, I would take it.
Put me in, Coach.
You got it. You're the designated starter. Anything new in your broadcast crew or everybody the same coming back?
Kevin Donnelly on the sidelines this year.
Cool. Former Tar Heel.
Yeah, good old lineman.
Yes, he was. Hey, we thank you. Have a great night. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, pal. Thanks, Corn.
The voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon, topping things off for us tonight.
Was his degree real or fake? We wonder.
Well, Mick's a Tar Heel grad. I didn't want to go there with him.
That's why I wanted to. That's why I made sure he was off the phone.
He was way before all that.
He was a football player. He wasn't a basketball player.
All right, tomorrow it's a Talking Tuesday. Who's going up the hill?
I'll be seeing you around the bend.
Will, going up the hill.
You get a pail of water.
I'll take care of the Gamecocks, and we'll bring it all to you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk. Year 35, off and running. Thank you, Brian. Will Pro, have a great night. See you tomorrow.